625 pounds. Raw iron above his chest. But the true weight? That came from the bodies he left behind.
He went from "I'm just a wrestler" to Al Capone.
Ion William Croitoru, a name that made Hamilton's hardest men cross the street. A Romanian immigrant's son who built himself into something monstrous at Bad Boys Gym, where the constant clang of weights drowned out the whispers of what he did after hours. Ever wonder what turns a man from hero to monster? He wrestled Hulk Hogan on national television. 7 years later, he bombed a police station.
I don't know if he chose a life of crime, or if the life of crime just chose him.
The same hands that worked body slams for cheering crowds now worked brass knuckles for mob bosses. 3 lives lost, 13 years behind bars, $133,000 in bombing damages.
He fucked up. He fucked up big time.
They called him Johnny K9 in the ring, Bruiser Bedlam on the streets.
He could be laughing so hard that you think he's going to pass out, and the next thing you know he might have somebody by the throat, and you're thinking, okay, I'm about to witness a pretty heinous crime here.
A 270-pound force of nature who could laugh with you 1 minute and have his hands around your throat the next. Think you know what evil looks like? Wait until you meet the man who protected Hollywood stars by day and plotted murders by night. This isn't just another crime story. This is what happens when the villain in the ring becomes the monster outside it. Welcome to the dark tale of Ion Croitoru, where the fighting was fake, but the blood was always real.
You ain't true, no crew. This is my crew. I'm true to the crew. You're gonna go down, you punk, just like Macho Man. You punk.
In the world of professional wrestling and outlaw bikers, few names carry as much weight as Ion Johnny K9 Croitoru. Ever wonder what turns a wrestler into a bomber? East Hamilton, 1963. The steel mills belched smoke into winter skies, coating the city in a gray blanket that matched its working-class dreams. Among them, a Romanian immigrant couple welcomed their youngest son into a world where strength wasn't just admired. It was necessary for survival. Christmas at the Croitoru household wasn't about presents. It was about a 5-year-old boy hiding under steel bed frames from his drunk father's rage.
He grew up in a very abusive home. At Christmas time, his dad would get so drunk and beat his mother and the kids. He would chase them around with a broom. He was 5 years old and he was so scared, and he would climb his little body under the steel bed frame and hold on with his little fingers and his feet. So, when his dad went with the broom under the bed, he couldn't get his little body.
Want to know what forges a monster? Start with a scared kid under a bed. By 16, he was bench pressing 625 pounds at Bad Boys Gym. The constant clang of weights provided percussion to whispered tales of street glory. 6 feet of solid muscle crowned with a face that could stop traffic. Think that's impressive? That was just the warm-up. Between sets, young Ion watched the neighborhood tough guys swap envelopes in dark corners. The same hands that could bend steel were learning to bend the law.
He loved wrestling and was known for that. But locally, he was also known as this tough kid who'd grown up on the wrong side of the law.
The streets became his first ring. As a bouncer, his reputation grew with every broken nose, every knocked-out tooth. Local tough guys didn't just whisper his name in dive bars. They crossed the street when they saw him coming. But the ring, the real wrestling ring, beckoned. Professional wrestling promised a chance to turn violence into victory, a way to make the crowds cheer instead of cower. Problem was, Ion had already learned a different kind of performance art in Hamilton's back alleys, the kind that didn't end when the bell rang. You might think you know where the story goes. Trust me, you don't. Because while other wrestlers were practicing moves, Ion was practicing something else. While they played at being bad guys, he was becoming one. The steel mills kept belching smoke, but now they were covering up different kinds of darkness. And that 625-pound bench press, just a warm-up for the weight of what was coming. Hamilton's prodigal son was about to make his mark. Not in the ring. Not yet. First, he had to learn how to make people really bleed. Hey brothers, tired of YouTube's BS and censorship? It's time to break free. That's why I've shifted gears to Patreon, where I can bring you the raw, uncensored content you crave. Join my Patreon crew and get an insane package deal. Exclusive early access to all videos, days before YouTube, 100% ad-free viewing experience, uncensored, no-holds-barred community discussions, double the content, 2 killer videos every single week, VIP access, direct interaction with yours truly, inside scoop, exclusive biker world updates you won't find anywhere else. Ready to join the elite? Hit that Patreon link now. Your support doesn't just keep us rolling, it fuels a revolution of uncensored, unrestricted content. Join now and unlock a world of exclusive benefits. Know how legends are born? Sometimes in glory, sometimes in the back of a police wagon. That's where Johnny K9 came to life. Not in a wrestling ring, but in handcuffs, staring at the K9 stenciled on a paddy wagon side.
It's a long story. I used to work in a bar. One time I got arrested. I had an assault police charge and they threw him in the back of a paddy wagon. I was looking. I saw the dog car come up and I saw K9 and said, "That's the name I'm going to use when I go in the ring because I'm a dog."
1984. Working security at a Hamilton bar, Croitoru caught a wrestler's eye. Raw talent, they called it. Savage grace. That talent found its home in Stampede Wrestling, where Bruce Hart saw something in the young bruiser that made him shiver. First came the name Orhan Turgaden, the Terrible Turk. Didn't stick. But Johnny K9? That fit like brass knuckles in a street fight. Ever seen a man who could laugh with you 1 minute and have his hands around your throat the next? That was Johnny in the World Wrestling Federation, a jobber who commanded respect.
Johnny K9 was one of those, you know. Look, the term offends some people. It doesn't offend me because I used to do it as a jobber, right? They're the guys that lose on television to the stars.
His signature moves told the story. The stomach claw, a brutal display of raw power that left opponents gasping. The flying headbutt, a testament to his reckless disregard for personal safety. Like an animal or a dog, the commentators would say.
He told the guys all the time, "Hit me. I don't care. I want blood. If there's no fucking blood, then we're doing it again. You gotta get blood."
Through the late 1980s, he squared off against legends. Pedro Morales, Tito Santana, Paul Orndorff, even formed a tag team with Barry O in '86. But his crowning moment? Going toe-to-toe with Hulk Hogan himself on national television. But success in wrestling came with a price. Wrestling did not give him as much, so he ventured into other businesses. Collections for people you didn't want to owe. The wrestling checks were good, but blood money spent better.
The Greville family, which was a big family in Hamilton. He had acquaintances among all the traditional organized crime families. People who had debts would give a percentage of the debt to somebody like Johnny K9, and he would take a profit off, and he would collect the money. And it was a lot easier for Johnny to do it because basically of his appearance.
A few times he'd come home with blood on his shoes and wash his hands. And that was one of the ways he made his cash.
After leaving WWF, Japan came calling. New Japan Pro Wrestling offered fresh opportunities, but the shadows of his past followed him across the Pacific. 1994. Smoky Mountain Wrestling. One of America's last true wrestling territories, built for old-school Southern wrestling.
Smoky Mountain Wrestling was one of the last of the pro wrestling territories of the United States. It was started specifically to be an old-time territory with a Southern wrestling feel.
Here, he became Bruiser Bedlam. Jim Cornette saw what WWF had missed, a legitimate tough guy who could make audiences believe.
When we got there and saw the guys in the locker room, I saw this big, bald-headed, jacked-up guy. He looked like a turn-of-the-century carnival strongman. He had a big round head, bald. He had big bulging eyes that he could make that face. He had this giant tattoo across his stomach. Crew to the crew. I said, There's gotta be some way that we can bring this guy to Tennessee where they've never seen him before and make a believable animal out of him. We need a heel. We need a badass.
Within months, he was SMW Beat the Champ television champion, defeating Mike Furness. 5 victories, a forced vacancy, $5,000 richer. Even Macho Man Randy Savage fell to his hands. A career-defining moment, pinning one of wrestling's biggest stars, 1, 2, 3, in the center of the ring.
Randy Macho Man Savage, one of the biggest stars in wrestling, doing me a favor to come down and appear on my show. And now he wants to lose to my new top deal. I tried to interfere. Other people got involved. But Bruiser Bedlam pinned Randy Savage. 1, 2, 3. That was in a lot of ways, Johnny, like, here I am. Like, I'm not that job guy anymore. That was his biggest match of his entire career. And I think he did a very good job with what he was given to work with for that period of time. He was in Smoky Mountain.
Tracy Smothers felt his fury in coal miners' glove matches. Steel cage battles with Tony Anthony left both men scarred. Between tours, he opened Bad Boys Gym in Burlington, named after the place where his journey began. Barbed wire baseball bat matches in ICW against Ian Rotten. The Cambridge scene watched him take Greg Valentine's gold with brass knuckles glinting under the lights. But with each passing year, the line between performance and reality grew thinner. The violence in the ring started feeling less like acting and more like rehearsal for what was to come. Want to know the real difference between fake fighting and real violence? About 10 years in federal prison. But we're not there yet. First, Satan had some plans for this choice prospect. Remember how this story started with a police wagon? Just wait until you see how it ends. Ever dance with the devil? Johnny K9 didn't just dance, he became the choreographer. By 1995, the wrestling checks weren't cutting it. Satan's Choice Motorcycle Club saw something in the fading star. But they didn't recruit members, they selected them.
I guess they proposed the offer of him opening up a chapter in Hamilton, and he jumped right on it.
From prospect to president, Croitoru built a cocaine pipeline from Montreal's Hells Angels that would eventually prove his undoing. The same charisma that worked wrestling crowds now worked crowds of a different sort. 20, 30 grand for 20 minutes of work. The kind of work that left blood on your shoes.
When people in that drug crime world, you got Johnny K9 backing you, you make more money, people are scared, right? So it was easy for him to make 20, 30 grand in a matter of 20 minutes. No joke.
His clubhouse at 269 Lottridge Street became his new ring, just 6 blocks from their rivals, the Outlaws. The pool table, a gift from Fat Pat Musitano, a mobster's blessing that carried its own weight in gold and blood. Detective Sergeant Len Isnor of the Ontario Provincial Police's Anti-Biker Enforcement Unit watched it all unfold. After a while, he'd say, you can tell who's cut out for life and who isn't. K9 would talk about anything, especially himself. He was just stupid that way. But stupid or not, Croitoru was dangerous. His alliance with Michel Dubé, president of Satan's Choice Sudbury chapter, created a fearsome partnership. Even hardened criminals spoke of Dubé in whispers.
Johnny K9 formed a relationship with a member of the subbed chapter by the name of Michael Dube.
December 1996. The Solid Gold Strip Club in Sudbury. No colors allowed. The bouncers stood firm.
On one particular night, they decided, let's go to the Solid Gold. And the Solid Gold was an adult entertainment place. All of a sudden, we members folded up their colors and they put them in their saddlebags. And Johnny K9 says, "What are you guys doing?" He says, "Well, I can't wear colors. And it's all gold, it says no colors." Johnny said, "How with that, we're going to wear our colors in here." He went from, "I'm just a wrestler," to "He's Al Capone." And when you get the Al Capone syndrome, that means you can do whatever you want. Well, in the Solid Gold, the staff said, "We can't serve you. There's a no-color policy here and we'd like you to leave." The Satan's Choice members dug their heels in and says, "No, we are not leaving." Sudbury police are called and there's a face-off basically between the Sudbury police and Satan's Choice back down.
Know what wounded pride does to dangerous men? It makes them reach for dynamite. A Tim Hortons parking lot, where Highway 69 meets Notre Dame Avenue, a package changes hands. Just another coffee run, right? Wrong. The bomb was meant for the strip club. At least, that's what Johnny claims. But somewhere between that coffee shop meeting and execution, plans changed.
So they decided that they would bomb the strip club. K9 and another member of the Hamilton group offered to arrange the explosives and the bombs.
Dubé had bigger ideas.
Johnny doesn't know there's been a change in the plans, and Michael Dubé decides that this bomb is not going to go to the Solid Gold. He decides that this bomb is going to the Sudbury police station. So they went, and they put the bomb in an alley beside police headquarters. And it blew a hole in a brick wall.
December 15th, 1996. The Sudbury police station erupted. One officer was injured. Windows shattered for blocks.
The Hamilton Wentworth Regional Police Emergency Response Unit moved in on the Satan's Choice Clubhouse on Lottridge. Street Club President Johnny K9 is out on bail in connection with charges he's facing, thanks to the bombing of the Sunbury police station in December of 1996.
$133,000 in damages. On the police wiretap, Johnny's shock was real. What do you mean the police station? It was supposed to be Solid Gold.
A phone call is basically made to Johnny. Another member calls him and says, "Yeah, the police station got bombed in Sudbury." You could tell in this conversation that Johnny's confused. He didn't know he was manipulated, I think, until the downfall.
Too late, brother. Too late. The law closed in. By 1997, they had to blow a hole in the clubhouse wall just to get inside. Johnny had fortified it against raids, turning his domain into a fortress. A biker squad officer knew just how to lean on him. With wiretap evidence and Johnny's statement, Dubé went down as the mastermind.
This is getting into 1997. So we have a lot of the members in Hamilton on narcotics charges, on extortion charges, collecting money, plus we also have the bombing. Now, when we went into the Hamilton clubhouse, they did everything they could to prevent us from coming in, and that was all Johnny's doing. He put barriers in front of doors so we can't ram doors and things like that, so we had to blow a hole in the wall to enter the building. In this case, Johnny K9 was interrogated by a biker squad officer who just knows how to lean on him enough to get him to point at someone. With wiretap evidence and Johnny K9's statement to authorities, Michael Dubé is implicated as the mastermind behind the police station bombing. And Johnny is released on bail.
Johnny got 33 months. The Satan's Choice Club found out what he'd done. One of their unwritten rules: you don't make statements to the police.
One of their unwritten rules is you don't make any statement to the police. You don't assist in their investigation. So when he comes out of jail, they remove him from the club. He was being accused of being a rat.
His friend Dubé, facing murder charges in the bombing case, he hanged himself in his cell. His last connection to the outside world had been Croitoru, the only friend he had left. Want to know the price of betrayal in the outlaw world? Sometimes it's measured in rope. How does a man outrun his shadows when they're cast by police searchlights? January 6th, 2005. The past came knocking with murder charges. A lawyer and her husband, Lynn and Fred Gilbank, were executed in their Ancaster home. 6 years and $6 million of investigation led straight to Johnny K9's door. The motive? Lynn had helped 2 drug runners vanish into witness protection after they'd spilled Gravel family secrets. 7 months behind bars on $100,000 bail. Between court appearances, he scraped by, home renovations until the banks turned cold, then used cars. The Crown's case hinged on a British lip reader, paid 20 grand to decipher surveillance footage. Perfect, until her own secrets surfaced. A perjury conviction and test results showing she could barely read half the words spoken to her face. The case collapsed, but freedom came with ghosts. Vancouver beckoned in 2007. Mountains reaching for heaven, ocean stretching to tomorrow. Working security for Lions Gate Entertainment, protecting Jack Nicholson and Cyndi Lauper instead of territory. Even landed roles in Oklahoma Smugglers and Reaper. But the streets have a way of calling their children home. The Hells Angels turned him away, but Clayton Roish's United Nations gang welcomed the aging wrestler with open arms.
Was he a good actor? Not a great actor. He tried his best and he had a lot of fun doing it, you know. But then he was in a gym in North Vancouver and saw Hell's Angel. Then he started talking to the United Nations and he comes home bragging, and I'm like, what? Wait a minute, we're going backwards here. You're supposed to be changing your life. What the fuck are you doing?
One last ride, they said. One final score. His wife found 100-pound bales of weed in their kitchen while the kids were at daycare. Johnny's bright idea?
Out in the West Coast, he got involved with the UN gang, a multi-ethnic organized crime gang. He tried to hide it from me, but it didn't last long. I mean, we'd have 100 pounds of weed in my kitchen while my kids are in daycare. And he'd go, wait a minute, I'm going to spray it with whiskey and Coca-Cola. It'll weigh more and we'll make more money. I'm like, you're fucking crazy. So we'd be there spraying the weed all over my kitchen floor and I'd be bagging and weighing. He was coming home with 20, 30 grand just stacking bank. And I'm like, John, you're doing the same thing you were doing in Hamilton.
May 9th, 2008, Kingsway Highway. A Porsche Cayenne that looked just like Jonathan Bacon's. Wrong car, wrong guy. Wrong day to be Jonathan Barber, stereo installer. The hail of bullets left Barber dead. His girlfriend was wounded. Another innocent life snuffed out because Johnny K9 couldn't leave the life behind.
Police say these are the faces of the UN gang and investigators want them all in jail. In the vendettas that were going on between these two BC gangs, John was picked up by the police in connection with merge there.
By May 2009, the law caught up. Conspiracy charges for plotting to kill the Bacon brothers. His pregnant wife watched them take him away.
Then he was charged in 2009 for first-degree murder. I was 9 months pregnant when he was arrested. And that day that he went into custody, I didn't know at the time, but that was the last day he would ever be free.
"13 years. That's what the judge handed down in 2013. 4 years and 8 months with time served. Think prison breaks a man? Not Johnny. He'd been there before. Done time like he used to do rounds in the ring, grinding it out, waiting for the bell. Only one halfway house in all of Canada would take him in the end. The Keele Community Correctional Center in Toronto. No entry to Hamilton allowed. No contact with criminals. In his final years, he reverted to the original Romanian spelling of his name, Croitoru, perhaps trying to find his way back to who he was before Johnny K9, before the bodies started dropping. February 21st, 2017. They found him in his room, 53 years old.
And he was supposed to come back to Vancouver in 6 weeks. But instead, the police came to my door and they said, "Do you know Ion Croitoru?" And I said, "Yeah." Now in my mind, I'm thinking, oh shit. I said, "What's going on?" And he said to me, "Ion passed away this morning." I went completely numb, and I was shocked.
The official cause? Some say heart attack.
He died of a heart attack and probably because of his lifestyle. I know he was in trouble on the West Coast, so either it was a hot shot because they wanted him gone, you know, and somebody gave him some good stuff, and he went for the big ride. Or he just couldn't do it anymore.
His wife, Tracy, claims prison guards' mace destroyed his lungs.
The reason he died is because he got maced by the guards in prison. They had to scrape his lungs. So, there's a lot more to that. Somebody sent me the headline, "Natural causes succeed where mobsters and gangsters fail."
3 children left without a father, a widow maintaining his innocence, and countless lives shattered in his wake. Jonathan Barber's family, the injured Sudbury cop, the nameless victims of his collections work. Remember that Romanian immigrant's son hiding under the bed from his father's rage? He built himself into something bigger than his fears. Something worse. The wrestling ring couldn't contain him, the streets couldn't kill him, the law couldn't reform him. In the end, maybe his own demons did what the gangsters couldn't. Those 625 pounds he used to press? Nothing compared to the weight he carried to his grave. Want to know the true measure of a man's life? Count the tears at his funeral. Count the lives he touched. Count the lives he ended. Johnny K9, Ion Croitoru, Bruiser Bedlam. 3 names, 3 lives, 1 violent end. In professional wrestling, every match tells a story. The hero, the villain, the fall, the redemption. But this wasn't wrestling. This was real life. And in real life, sometimes there is no redemption. Sometimes the villain stays the villain. Sometimes the only fall is the final one. Last question. Was it worth it, Johnny? Too late now. The bell has rung for the last time.